Scotland, but also some showers to watch out for. These could be a bit wintry at times. Notice those temperatures markedly down compared to what we saw on Saturday, though perhaps a little bit milder in the southwest, could get to highs of 12 or 13. As we go through the end of the day on Sunday, we are going to see most of the cloud and those showers clearing away, so a largely dry and clear picture through Sunday night. That, combined with that cold northerly flow, does mean temperatures are going to take quite a drop. Perhaps a touch of frost in prone spots towards more southern parts, but further north, the frost on Monday morning is going to be quite widespread and harsh, with some icy patches to watch out for as well. Through Monday itself then, yes, a cold, frosty start for many of us, but actually it's going to be a generally fine day. Lots of sunshine to be had. Watch out for some showers towards coastal parts, towards the North Sea, and also some rain reaching towards Shetland later, but otherwise, yes, plenty of fine weather to be had. It is going to be chilly though, but you'll want to make the most of the fine weather before things turn more unsettled, albeit milder, later in the week.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different.
Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit off.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one.
Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like
Absolutely.
on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway,
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel. Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. In my big opinion, the protests by the French this weekend are there to challenge the tyranny of the elite. People power may just save the free world. In the big story, is the Home Secretary Suella Braverman right to accommodate migrants on ferries? My Mark Meets guest is the star of a controversial remake of Winnie the Pooh, which has been made for an adult audience and which has been censored by the Chinese Communist Party. Big guests, big stories, big opinions, lots to get through. But first, the headlines with Ray Addison.
Thanks, Mark. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has been accused of using incorrect figures when discussing the asylum claims backlog. The UK Statistics Authority has written to the government saying numbers used by Rishi Sunak do not reflect official stats. It's wrong, they say, to claim the Conservatives have halved the number of people waiting for their asylum application to be processed, when the backlog has increased by 150,000 since they took office. Post office workers have been offered a 9% pay rise following a series of strikes. Members of the Communication Workers Union who work at Crown post offices have also been offered substantial lump sum payments of between £2,000 and £3,000. They'll also see an increase in paternity pay. They'll now be balloted on the deal, with the union saying it's the best that can be achieved. 2 teenage boys have been charged with the murder of a 16-year-old boy who was stabbed to death in Northampton. Rohan Shand, known as Fred, died following the attack on Wednesday afternoon. The 14 and 16-year-olds, who can't be named for legal reasons, appeared before Northampton Magistrates Court this morning. They've been remanded in custody. The Mayor of Greater Manchester has been fined almost £2,000 after being caught driving 38 miles an hour over the speed limit. In a statement, Andy Burnham says he had to reroute when he realised his junction was closed, but he was not aware of any variable limit being in place. He was reportedly driving at 78 miles an hour in a 40 zone. The Mayor says he was going too fast and accepts the court's decision. At least 23 people have been killed after a major tornado hit the US state of Mississippi. Now, it's understood that dozens have been injured and at least 4 people are missing after the twister swept through the state and on into Alabama. The Emergency Management Agency says the storm has left a trail of damage more than 100 miles long. Residents have spoken of entire buildings left in rubble, cars turned over and trees uprooted.
We had to get ourselves into the middle part of the house, and we did, and we got in there, and obviously it was coming right behind us, because as soon as we got in there, we heard a big boom and didn't hear anything else for a little while, so we walked out and then just came out to about 10 trees down in our yard.
And Russia wants to station nuclear weapons in Belarus, according to Russian state media. President Putin says he's struck a deal to post tactical nuclear weapons within the country which borders Ukraine. He claims it's not a violation of nuclear non-proliferation agreements, comparing it with the United States stationing nuclear weapons on the territory of its European allies. We're on TV, online, on DAB+ radio, and of course, now on TuneIn. This is GB News. Now back to Mark.
Thanks, Ray, and I'm glad you got the memo about the yellow tie. Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. In my big opinion, the protests by the French this weekend are there to challenge the tyranny of the elite. People power may just save the free world. In the big story, is the Home Secretary Suella Braverman right to accommodate migrants on ferries? My Mark Meets guest is the star of a controversial remake of Winnie the Pooh, which has been made for an adult audience. It's now a horror film, and it's been censored by the Chinese Communist Party. In my take at 10, with more funny shows being axed, political correctness is killing TV entertainment. Go woke? No joke. We'll also be live in Los Angeles, asking whether Prince Harry is now a laughingstock in the United States. Mark Dolan Tonight is the home of the papers, with tomorrow's front pages from 10:30. You won't want to miss it. It's a brand new look for the show, and it's exactly 10:30. You can set your watch tomorrow's Sunday papers. Also, with the pundits, is a vaccine damage day of reckoning coming? And with nurses, teachers and financiers leaving the country to work abroad, is Britain suffering a mega brain drain? And are private car parks a con? Have you been stung? Let me know. Mark at gbnews.uk. Tonight, my top pundits are 3 people who haven't been told what to say, and they don't follow the script. Tonight, Lizzie Zeta, David Hamilton and Ben Ofoedu. Plus your emails, as I've said, even the spicy ones, especially the spicy ones. Mark at gbnews.uk. No one gets cancelled, not on my watch. Now, this show has a golden rule. We don't do boring. I just won't have it. Lots to get through, a big 2 hours. And let's begin with my big opinion. The clock is ticking for French President Emmanuel Macron, whose unpopular pension reforms are precipitating what looks to be a low-key sequel to the French Revolution. It's telling that the French people are revolting over an increase in the pension retirement age from 62 to just 64, given the fact that we accepted a pension retirement age of 67 without so much as a squeak. You do wonder whether Britain is like the Playboy bunny of Europe, taking far too much lying down. Although I'm no fan of Macron, these pension reforms are absolutely essential, given the fact that France has an even worse national debt than we do. And like most Western countries, France lives way beyond its means, which doesn't end well. But the problem is he's lost the proverbial dressing room. Like so many figures in the corporate, political and media elite, Macron is separate from the real-world concerns of ordinary people, which is why they will not comply with his latest diktat. The economic case for these protests is a weak one, but the moral, political and democratic case is far stronger. After 3 years of bonkers COVID measures in which people's lives were dictated to, and in which their livelihoods were destroyed, the public have had enough of top-down, autocratic, ruling-class tyranny, which long predates the pandemic. Which is why so many people are rightly concerned about groups like the World Economic Forum and their terrifying Bond villain-style leader, Klaus Schwab. Under his auspices, the good and the great of the global elite meet once a year in Davos to decide what our future will look like. Thanks, but no thanks. The revolutionary spirit of the French public suggests, with any luck, people power will win in the end, and the elite will fall, as they did in Paris in 1789. The most symbolic moment in this more recent French political drama was not necessarily this week's violence on the streets, the noisy protests, or even the cancellation of our own King Charles's visit to the capital. It was the strange case of the disappearing presidential timepiece. On the left is Macron wearing an expensive watch worth thousands, and on the right, no watch at all. This was a TV interview in which he was asking the French people to take an effective pay cut. So there you go. When his hands disappear, the watch does too. Paul Daniels or David Blaine, eat your heart out. Flashing an expensive watch as he fleeces the nation, a potent symbol of the widening gap between leaders and their people. Now, some claim that Macron sneakily removed the watch as he realised the optics weren't good of a rich man with expensive jewellery asking the public to tighten their belts. If that's true, and of course it can't be proven, he's not alone. Hiding in plain sight the shameful duplicity and double standards of characters like Macron in France and Matt Hancock in Britain tell you everything you need to know about our so-called superiors. People power might just save France, and it may just save the free world altogether. Macron can hide his watch, but he can't hide from the public. Time's up for the French president. As in 1789, the elite will fall. Bring popcorn.
Record time.
There you go. Well, blimey, what time is it? I've just thrown my watch away. By the way, do you want to know what watch I've got? It's a German watch called Tauchmeister from Amazon about a year ago, £135. A lot of money, but it's the best watch I've ever had. Now, what do you think? What's your reaction to my big opinion? Do you agree? Do you disagree? mark@gbnews.uk. I'll get to your emails shortly. But reacting to my big opinion are three of the best pundits in the country. Journalist and broadcaster Lizzie Zeta, radio and TV presenter Diddy David Hamilton, and singer and actor, a guy that we've missed massively on the national television and radio airwaves. A warm welcome back to Ben Ofoedu.
Thank you.
So, folks, let's talk about this. Ben, I'll kick off with you.
Yeah.
The elite. and the public are worlds apart.
Yes, they are. And the gaps just seem to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think good on the French people for doing what they're doing. I think they're going to inspire the rest of the world. I think in the next few years we're going to see a lot of marches and a lot of protests and stuff like that. And I really admire what they're doing there. You know, they're literally stopping this whole thing, and I think we're going to need a bit of that. I really think it is.
And we've seen it, haven't we, in 2016 with Brexit? In a way, that was a popular revolt. Possibly even the election of Boris Johnson in 2019.
Yes, totally. And I think more's coming because the gap is just getting bigger. And the thing is, with social media and the way that the media's going and everything, they're just being, you know, the elite are just being exposed constantly.
Yeah.
And they're realising that we're not as stupid as they think that we are.
Indeed. I mean, this is not a good look for Macron, is it? He's got this expensive watch. He's halfway through a TV interview telling the French public to take a pay cut, Lizzie Zita, and then, bingo, this watch worth thousands has disappeared.
I completely disagree. We've had this conversation before. I've worked in fashion. I think he should be wearing French watches and French suits, and I think that our politicians and people who represent our country should be amazingly dressed, and I think that they should actually be broadcasters for the country. They should be flagships for the country. And all of this dumbing down, I don't agree with it. I don't think it serves a good purpose.
I hear what you're saying.
I have to say that it is a bit insensitive when you're telling people to, you know, oh, well, you know, you have to cut back and we don't have, you know, X, Y and Z while you're wearing whatever watch. But on the other hand, I just don't agree with it. I think it's dumbing down. I think it's play acting, and I don't think that it really boosts the economy of a country. All our politicians should be wearing Savile Row suits because Savile Row is dying at the moment. And I can't stand all this mealy-mouthed dumbing down. I do not agree with it.
What do you think about the political elite, the media elite, and of course during the pandemic we saw the scientific elite as well controlling our lives, David?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's a lot of jealousy, isn't it, about, you know, people who are rich and successful. The same thing with our Prime Minister here. I mean, I think one of the great things about him is that he pays a lot of income tax, and we want people to pay income tax. So I think that's... We don't expect, you know, paupers to be running the country, but I do think that the elite are very out of touch with the rest of us. I think the interesting thing about the pensions is that we're so tolerant here. What are the ages now? I mean, I'm too young to know this, of course. What are the ages now at which we qualify for pensions in this country? Do you know?
Well, I think it's 67. Yeah. 67 for men, isn't it?
Yeah, and what are the French complaining about?
64.
There you are, you see.
Yeah, but we have to say, listen, the French, you know, they complain about everything. You know, it's, oh, mon Dieu, it's just not good enough. They go out and strike at the drop of a hat. And I really think, you know, we need more money in the system. We need to be working longer. And 2 years, listen, guys, is that really so bad to work for another 2 years?
I do think, just going back to the fashion thing, though, and dressing up, I do agree with the dressing up in British thing. I just think...
You look great, by the way.
Thank you. It's all British. Not Savile Row, but it's all British. But I do think that you do need discernment in what you're doing.
Yes.
And if you are... and if we are going for a recession, it's not that great to be dressed up to the nines.
Well, the issue is the allegation that halfway through the interview, Ben...
No, he did do that. It was very David Blaine.
He essentially took the watch off during the interview.
Yeah. I think it's great, you know, he thinks on his feet, he thinks on his bum, and he was sitting down, and he literally under the table, and even in the clip you'd see, if you look carefully, he was doing it then. He sort of went under the table and he was kind of going like that, and he swapped it from hands around.
Now, why do you think he's taken the watch off halfway through?
Because he's realised what he's saying. He's got this really flashy watch on.
You should have thought about that in the first place.
No, but you know what? They're human. You know, politicians are human.
But he needs me as a stylist.
Well, he definitely needs you as a stylist.
I would have said, look, don't wear this flashy watch because your message is about austerity. Be low-key, but there are other occasions. Look, when I see all of the world's politicians lined up, our lot look dreadful, stuffed into badly fitting suits.
Casio watch.
You know, it's like, it's
machine washable M&S.
But there is that British thing, isn't there? There is that kind of British aristocrat thing where we're too intelligent for clothes. Clothes just, they don't really mean a thing.
Yeah.
Like you can see some of the wealthiest people, that I know.
Driving around in old scruffy.
How could you say that when Boris was the best dresser you could ever seen in your life?
David, I always told you not to have a drink before the show. Ben, there has been a suggestion, a defence from Macron's team, that his watch was knocking against the desk, which is why he took it off.
Yeah, sure it was.
Do you buy that?
No. Sure it was. No, I don't buy it at all. And you'd have heard it on the microphone. You know, if you listen to the interview, it wasn't. You couldn't hear it clanging about. You know, I know because I'm into hip hop, and when rappers are talking and their jewelry's clanging, they don't seem to. You can hear it clearly. His watch wasn't.
Well, I just very briefly, I just wonder, David, whether he's shown his true colours there, hiding in plain sight, a devious, corrupt man.
I think so. Yes, I think time to go, don't you?
Well, that's it.
Time's
up.
This is the
Off
point.
with his head.
The French are revolting.
Well, I'll quote you on that one. My brilliant pundits are back shortly, but coming up next in the big story is the Home Secretary Suella Braverman right to want to accommodate migrants on ferries. That's next.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
Is the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you.
She's only teasing. Go on.
He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one.
Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Kerr. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me. So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel. Well, a big reaction to my big opinion, and let's have a look. The bottom line is I think that the elite will fall. Emmanuel Macron is experiencing major protests in France because people power is more important than any other democratic force. Alison says, hi, Mark, it's not the people, it's anti-establishment morons setting fire to things. If he hadn't forced this policy through, they would not be doing it. The civil service needs to have pensions brought in line with the rest of us. and we'll see if they can work even less. Phil says, Mark, you threw your phone, then the watch. What's next? Yeah, luckily the watch is still going, I'm pleased to say. How about this from Fred? Mark, the riots in France are not entirely about pensions. It's being used by young brainwashed Marxists to bring down the Western world. There you go. Well, you're not pulling your punches. Keep those emails coming. Mark at gbnews.uk. It's time now for the big story. And migrants could be moved from hotels to disused ferries as part of government plans to cut costs, this according to reports. More than 50,000 migrants are currently staying in hotels in the UK at a cost of around £7 million a day. However, Rishi Sunak will reportedly declare the beginning of the end of asylum hotels in the coming weeks. According to the Daily Telegraph, migrants will be moved into decent but rudimentary accommodation in former military bases that will be used to house adult males. It also claimed that the government may house more migrants in ferries to cut costs, and that's what's made the headlines. So is this the right thing to do, and will it work? To discuss this, let's talk to lawyer, former UKIP MEP and the director of the Centre for Migration and Economic Prosperity, Stephen Wolfe. Hi, Stephen.
Good evening, Mark. How are you?
Very well. Your reaction, please, Stephen, to the suggestion that migrants could be housed on ferries.
Well, my first reaction is it's lawful. It doesn't breach the UN Refugee Convention, and it enables the government to introduce a policy that brings a broader spectrum of housing for the 51,000 asylum applicants that are currently being housed in hotels across the country, nearly 400 hotels. So it's a welcome opportunity to be able to reduce the costs and still keep ourselves within international law.
And do you think that this policy will work? Will it be a disincentive, accommodating people in ferries? Could it break the business model of those criminal gangs?
I'm not so certain that it would actually break the business model, because the people are still here, and the business model is very important in order to get people to the UK, whether they're staying in hotels or on camps. The idea is to make sure they get here. The real business model breaking is if Rishi Sunak's plan for immigration, being able to take them immediately within 28 days and take them to other places like Rwanda. And on a recent call that we had with the Home Office, who were giving us a briefing on this, they have informed us that they will be looking at further deals with other countries and possibly other British protectorates. And they will be a part of a key answer to breaking that business model.
Many would characterise these ferries as effective prison ships, Stephen. Do you think that accommodating migrants at sea, as it were, is unethical and cruel?
I don't think it's unethical or cruel, because if you look at the UNHCR's particular responses to dealing with the 103 million people who are displaced, 32.5 million people are asylum across the globe, you'll see them in hot countries in Africa, in tented communities, where they are in very hot places but being have to looked after in tents. So what is the difference between having a tented community and someone going onto a ferry? The idea is it safe? Do they have good sanitary? Is it a place that they will be able to keep warm? Is it got the opportunity for them to be able to talk to their lawyers and make the applications? All of those will be still available to them. It's just that it won't be in a hotel. It might be on a camp, or it might be on a ferry.
Stephen, this policy of potentially accommodating migrants on ferries is part of a nexus of arrangements that have been outlined by the Prime Minister, who wants to stop the boats. Together, will they work, these measures?
I think they're going to have some positive impacts in trying to dissuade people to use the people smugglers. People smugglers' business model over the last 4 years has been able to say, you pay us up to around £12,000, we'll get you onto a boat, you'll get into the UK, and immediately you'll be looked after, claim asylum, getting a hotel, and we know that you will never be deported and never removed. Rishi Sunak's laws that he's introducing, and the policies that go with them, and the procedures that will also be in place, will mean now that after 28 days, most of them will have the opportunity of being removed from the UK. So if you're going to pay £12,000 and know that you could go to Rwanda or another country, that's a nail in the coffin for the people smugglers. and it's going to make it harder for them to persuade people that they can get them over with ease.
Stephen, will the United Kingdom ultimately have to exit the European Convention on Human Rights in order to stop the boats?
I think that's going to be a really tricky question, Mark, because I looked at this and I was deeply surprised initially that the lawyers, the government lawyers, and I do admit they've worked tremendously hard and done a successful job to keep us within the UN Convention on Refugees, the ECHR and the Human Rights Act, and still have policies that remove some of the appeal rights and also remove people from the country. Where the tricky point will come is if there are appeals in the UK that's based on the ECHR, and the ECHR steps in, even though they've said that they won't. At that point, that becomes a trigger point for Rishi Sunak, because he has said, if the ECHR steps in and tries to oppose us, we will remove it. I think people are going to be smart on both sides. The European bodies will not want to see Britain leave the ECHR, and nor do most people in government. So they'll find a balance through the courts.
The boats won't be stopped overnight. I think we can agree on that, Stephen. But what might success look like for Rishi Sunak in a year's time when he faces the country?
I think the estimate of 80,000 people coming over this year, which is a deep concern, and you look at the cost, Mark, that's going to be around £4 billion to the Exchequer. Success for him will be seeing less than that. I would expect at least 50%, and a big reduction in those in hotels and a big reduction in those coming across the waters. But key to that is visibly seeing people being deported.
I've been asking on Twitter, Stephen, our viewers and listeners, whether they think the Home Secretary Suella Braverman was right to accommodate migrants on ferries. Well, the votes are in. 80% said yes, it's the right policy. 20% say no. Your reaction?
Most people think that's a good answer because they are seeing in their communities, and we know for a fact that for every 5 Channel migrants that are coming to the country, they're in the north of England in the poorest areas, and only 1 are in the south in the richest areas. So those people are suffering the impact on schools, hospitals, and in the communities. And that's why people really feel strongly about this, is that there is a need to deal with this. And if it's meant on ferries, then I think most people are going to actually agree with it.
Good to see you again, Stephen. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Fascinating stuff. Your reaction, Mark, at gbnews.uk. Coming up next with the pundits, is a vaccine damage day of reckoning coming? I'll see you in 2.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.
And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage. Here on GB News, we will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are. We don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Is the Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, right to seek to accommodate migrants on ferries? Well, this from Betty, who is ahead of the game. Betty's in Highcliffe. What a beautiful part of the world. Hi, Betty. Thanks for the email, mark@gbnews.uk. Betty said, I wrote to the previous Home Secretary suggesting that illegal migrants be held in ships offshore whilst their claims to remain be considered. No reply. It makes more sense than housing them in hotels spread around the country. How about this from Richard? Mark, holding centres offshore, perfectly sensible and fair. This will be a huge vote winner for Sunak if he rolls this out quickly and effectively. It's clear Rishi is slowly pulling all the pieces into place to stop the boats. Richard, thank you for that. Keep the emails coming, mark@gbnews.uk. But look, we've got lots more to get through, reacting to the big stories of the day. My three top pundits tonight: journalist and broadcaster Lizzie Zeta, radio and TV presenter, legend, let's be honest, Diddy David Hamilton, and singer and actor and broadcaster Ben Ofoedu. Now, the demand for COVID vaccine injury payments is on the rise, forcing the Vaccine Damage Payment Scheme to advance operations and increase their number of staff from 40 to 80. Campaigners claim the £120,000 cap is not enough compensation, and the criteria to claim is unrealistic. So is a vaccine damage day of reckoning coming? Lizzie Zeta.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think that you can't give out that number of vaccines without there being some problems with it. And I don't say that without a great deal of compassion for the people that have obviously, I think it's 334 people have lost their lives of the 4,000 that are claiming. And that's awful. And I think, you know, AstraZeneca, how much money have they got? They should just pay these people immediately. There should be no... And I think they're asking for... they have to prove that they are 60% disabled. I mean, how do you do that? Yeah. How do you work out whether you're sick? I'm sure that they have their targets that they have to hit. But it sounds really incompassionate to me.
Ben, I would suggest that any provable injury should be compensated.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I was going to say there's the same thing. The 60% thing is just ludicrous. I mean, what qualifies as 60% disability? You know, so if I was 57%, I wouldn't get any money. I mean, anything that they can actually prove, then you should get paid out for it.
Definitely.
You know, and that's it. But also, this £120,000 cap is silly. I mean, you can't pay for a life like that. You know, it's bad enough because a lot of people have died. You know, people have died. So, I mean, you can't just cap it off. And, you know, I know what they're trying to do. And they're making you jump through hoops to be able to prove it as well. Which is, you know...
I mean, David, you know, the health authorities argue that this vaccine has been tested, you know, passed all the necessary regulations. They would argue it's the most trialled vaccine in history because billions have had it. But it does cast a dark shadow on all those vaccine mandates and the pressure people had to get the jab, given the fact that it wasn't, as was perhaps purported in the media, to be 100% safe and effective.
Yeah, I think the problem was that it was rushed through, wasn't it? It was done so quickly with very, very little time to test it. And as we say, there have been 4,000 cases, which we know of since November 2021. And speaking from my own point of view, I mean, I probably had about 4 of these, and I have to say that until I had the first one, I've had a life that I've had no illness at all. And since I had the first one, I've had, health problems that I'd never had before. So who knows? You just don't know, do you? And we don't know how many people are affected.
You've suffered some symptoms of ill health since your first vaccination.
Yes, absolutely. I had over 80 years of wonderful, wonderful health. And since I've had the first vaccines, I have had health problems. So it may be a coincidence and it may just be my age. But, it's so hard, isn't it, to prove? And we probably won't be able to prove this for a long time. It'll be a long time before we know the effects that these vaccines have had. Quite honestly, if somebody offered me another one, I wouldn't have it.
Neither would I. Absolutely not. No more. Because the anti-vaxxers and the so-called alternative medicine people are saying that it's linked to cancer, it's linked to also, and there will be spikes in the future. We don't know that at the moment. And I also think, in fairness to companies like AstraZeneca, on the other hand, that they say it was not rushed through, that the issue of testing vaccines is that it's always hard to get people to test it out in the first place. But they had full capacity numbers for those. So, listen, God knows, personally, I wouldn't take another vaccine.
OK. Well, look, let me reiterate, the government are very clear, and the health authorities, that the vaccines have saved millions of lives. But it's all about opinions. What's yours? Mark at gbnews.uk. Would you have the jab next time round? Now, in the midst of an NHS staff shortage, a London-based trust is encouraging nurses and doctors to move to Saudi Arabia by offering irresistible tax-free earnings and sunny weather. This comes as King's College Hospital Trust are setting up a 150-bed site with 1,200 staff in the Kingdom under a new deal, a first of its kind. Migration to the Middle East is not just for nurses, with teachers also taking up the opportunity. So is Britain suffering a mega brain drain? David, should we worry about the talent leaving our shores?
Yes, I think so. We haven't got enough doctors and nurses here. Why are we encouraging them to go abroad? What does the NHS get out of this?
They get the, if I can answer.
Please.
They get the investment back, so they say. I'm not protecting them.
Do they?
But they say that any investment into this hospital in Jeddah will be reinvested back into the national health. It seems a very odd way of going about things, but that's what they say. That
We lose the quality of doctors and stuff, though, don't we?
Yeah, we do. But, on the other hand, if you're a young doctor, the specialist doctor, the entry-level price is about... salary is about 40,000. But according to my research, 90,000. If you're a young,
I mean, look, I wanted to become a doctor and go. When I saw the advert, I was watching YouTube.
How quickly can I get a medical degree?
I was like, literally, man, who's not going to want it? It says,
by the way, Dr. Ofoedu will see you now. It's got a nice ring to it.
It's got a nice ring to it. My mum would have loved that. Dr. Ofoedu. She would have loved it.
Yeah.
But when I saw it, it's so enticing. The advert was amazing. It looked like a holiday camp. It goes, and you can enjoy, then there's people water sports and, fishing, and there's dancing, and then it talks about the kids have got great education and everything. I mean, it's so attractive.
I mean,
not so great for women.
Not so great for women.
Not so great for women.
It's not just the Middle East, is it, though? That we've heard about disaffection from young people, that they don't think they see their future in this country and would seize the opportunity to work abroad.
Well, are we surprised? Look at the men. We've got inflation, we've got strikes.
Can't get on the housing ladder. Rent is through the roof.
The rent is through the roof. And the weather is awful. And the weather is really bad.
Well, it was all right for 5 minutes today.
Have you thought of this possibility? People could be leaving here soon on boats.
Yeah, well, that's a fair point too, by
to
the way.
get away.
Can't argue with that one. Now, one man's fight against paying a £100 parking fine for a supposed 22-hour stay could open the doors for every ticket issued by an ANPR camera to be invalid. The man claims he only parked at the car park in Kent on 2 consecutive days for 30 minutes each. So are private car parks a con, Ben?
They might be. And I'm glad that he's standing up and fighting for it, because they were quick to sort of do a U-turn, the car parking firm.
Oh, yes.
They did a quick U-turn. I was like, no, sorry, mate. No, you don't have to pay it, mate. Sorry. And he was like, nah, I'm gonna see it, because I think that you're operating with the wrong data. I think that, and how many people have you conned and how much millions are you making? And no one's going to want to fight it because everyone's too scared of the court fees and this and that. So people just pay it. And so I'm glad that he just stood up for himself. And I think that a lot of those places are cons and a lot of them are running on the film station.
I'll tell you the other way they get you too is that if you pay up, you pay less. In other words, if you hang about and you argue about it, you finish up paying more. That's the gamble that you take. And that's why people just take the easy route and say, OK, I'll pay it.
I fight them to the death.
Yep.
Every single
right?
parking I do, and I get off some of them. I used to get off all of them because of the nature of what
Are you like Kavanagh QC? Do you put the wig on?
I am.
You defend yourself?
And the thing is, I know the system, but what happens is it goes to an independent adjudicator, and then that decision is final. If you want to then take it further, you're into massive court fees. So everybody, there's why I think the law needs to be changed, because if we change it at that point, then people can, you can fight them. I've had so many unfair tickets. I've taken films. It's a war against.
You're always wrong.
And you are always wrong. I think this guy should be given a knighthood, and I think that the councils, if they're found to be in the wrong, we should put them into stakes like that and throw rotten vegetables.
That's something I can fully support. I do think that the local authorities are bad enough, but some of these private car parks are absolute crooks. Andrew in Shropshire parked in a shop parking space next to a pub in Shrewsbury, completely fleeced, £100. It wasn't his fault. Daylight robbery.
It is.
Look, lots more to come. As you might have noticed, we're delighted to welcome Ben Ofoedu back to the studio. He's one of my favourite pundits on Mark Dolan tonight. We've missed him. He's been through a lot, including one or two relationship issues with his ex, Vanessa Feltz. We'll talk about that next.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now, as you all know, my good friend, the broadcaster and music star Ben Ofoedu is used to making headlines with hit albums and TV appearances. But earlier this year, his split from longtime partner, the presenter Vanessa Feltz, became front-page news. Their parting appears to have been an acrimonious one. But of course, there are 2 sides to every story, and I'm delighted to say that Ben Ofoedu is my top pundit tonight. And as I said earlier, it's great to have you back on the box. Listen, it's only fair to set the record straight.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, we parted ways. I mean, I've been pretty honest about it, really. All it was I'd had an affair before, which put our relationship on quite dodgy ground, but we'd got over it, really, and that was like 2015. And then there's a case that's happening with the Metropolitan Police now, and there was a troll, and I was sex texting this troll that I did not know was a troll and stuff, and it was just sex texting. And the whole thing about me having like numerous amounts of affairs, and I'm going to holiday camps and sleeping with these different women, and I've had several affairs, is just not true, and it's horrible. You know, I've been getting trolled by practically what seemed like the whole of Great Britain for the last, 3 to 4 weeks, probably a couple of months, and it's been really, really tough. And but really, what it was this troll started trolling Vanessa and started trolling the family. Really, really nasty bit of work, and that's really why it kind of came to an end. And I've been completely honest about it. I think it's important to kind of own up and say, look, I was wrong and stuff like that. The original affair in Ibiza, it's a woman called Mandy Hayes. She had to change her name because she's embarrassed about it, because she knows that what she said in the papers was a complete lie. She just lied about it, absolutely everything. But it's done. It was 2015, and I just let her, get on with it. And Vanessa was well aware of it, and we'd had some work to get over that situation. But this other situation was just a woman that started trolling Vanessa, and the wrong thing I did was I didn't put my hands up and say I knew who it was. I pretended I didn't know who it was, and went to the troll and said, please, can you stop? But they didn't, and that's how.
So you actually only strayed in 2015.
Yes.
And that was worked through with Vanessa, because we're all human beings and people make mistakes, and life is complicated.
It's a terrible mistake.
But relationships are complicated. No one's perfect.
Yes.
And no one in Fleet Street should be casting stones in glass houses and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Therefore, it must bother you that it was just an online flirtation, which perhaps you took too far, that's ended a loving relationship with Vanessa.
It's ended a 17-year relationship, yeah. But I suppose that, as Vanessa believes, I don't necessarily believe it, but she says, once the trust has gone, then it's completely gone. So I mean, once the trust has gone, she couldn't go on with it anymore.
You must be quite devastated, because we all, we flirt, don't we? And I guess, you maybe went a bit further, but you were not adulterous.
No. It just, it's just this really, really stupid mistake. It was just, I don't even know. I mean, there are different reasons, but it was a stupid mistake. But it's, like I say, the case is with the police.
What would you say those reasons were? Why did you get sort of lured into this honey trap?
I think number one, I think a lot of times it's just options and chance, and I get thousands and thousands of DMs and stuff like that. And the person who did it is a well-known troll, so she targeted me, and she's done it before.
And what was her motivation, do you think?
She just does it. It's a hobby, I think.
Right. And the thing is, you perform all over the country and around Europe and everything, and you must get lots of offers, all of which you refuse. So it's come to this, which is very sad.
Well, the internet thing, the silly thing is, the internet thing, you almost feel like it's safe because you're not actually involved. You know, you're not so.
You would think. Do you feel that you've been harshly treated by Vanessa?
I don't know about by Vanessa. I don't think I've been harshly treated by her because, you know, I brought this to her doorstep and the family that I love so much.
Any chance of a reconciliation, at least as friends?
We were in love, like 17 years. I think so. I mean,
Would you like
can't throw
Vanessa
away...
to have you back?
I would love to be back in that situation because I love her so much. I mean, but, you know, there are a few things I would like, you know, there are a few things that I would like to change, but that would be between me and her to work out. But, yeah, I would love to be back in that situation. I just want to set the record straight. It's not several women. I'm not a serial cheater. I don't go to holiday camps and just cheat on, you know, that's not the truth. But it, you know, I think it kind of made a great narrative. The love rat, the love cheat, you know.
Well, you've arguably been libelled. You've certainly been lied about. You've been through a lot of mental anguish. I'm glad you've come through the other side. I'm glad that you're back on Mark Dolan tonight, and I know you'll be busy with your music career. You're going to star in Tony and Tina's Wedding, a massive show from the States, and it's coming to the Orbit in Stratford.
In Stratford, yes. It's run on Broadway, off Broadway for 25 years.
Massive show.
Massive. I've got a massive part. I'm Vinnie Black.
So I've heard.
I do say that. That's another story. Yeah, no.
And when's that? Is that coming in May or when?
No, it's coming at the end of April.
Brilliant stuff.
Yeah,
well, we look forward to that. And as I say, you've been through a lot. You've kept a dignified silence as well.
Thank you.
And I would like to put it on record that I know Ben, and I've also met Vanessa on many occasions. She's an unbelievable professional, a remarkable broadcaster, and a brilliant person. As is Ben. I do hope that they might be able to navigate some kind of friendship or relationship going forward. But, of course, it's in their hands. Brilliant stuff. Powerful as well. Life's complicated, folks. Who knew? It's time for this. Humbling stuff. Now it's time for Mark Meets, in which I speak to the biggest names in the world of showbiz and beyond. And tonight, one of the stars of a brand new remake of Winnie the Pooh, casting it as a horror film. Sacrilege. It's even raised eyebrows with the Chinese Communist Party, who have censored it in Hong Kong. So what's all the fuss about? Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, was released this month in a flurry of publicity. It sounds like huge fun, and Natasha Rose Mills stars in this wonderful film, and she's with me now. Hi, Natasha.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me today.
Great to have you on the show. Now, why take this classic children's story and turn it into a horror film?
Just to do something different, really, with it. It's a different classic take on Winnie the Pooh, but it's just not to be taken seriously.
Well, I think that's it. It is a classic children's story, and in many ways, there's a fine line between these cute kiddie tales and dark themes. A lot of children's books are a bit scary anyway.
They do have that connotation, that's very true.
Now, did you have to audition for this part?
I've actually worked with this company previously, Jagged Edge, on another project, so I was actually offered the role.
Quite something. You were headhunted. There you go. You've reached that level of,
yes.
I don't know, who could it be? Nicole Kidman. You don't audition. They come after you. Look, briefly, if you can, what is the main thrust of the story?
So it follows, there's two different stories. So the main story is Christopher Robin grows up with Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, and they're best friends. And then later on, he goes off to college, learning to be a doctor, studying to be a doctor. And what happens is they end up turning feral because they need to fend for themselves. They need to go back to actually being able to survive because they can't survive without him.
Listen, it's made waves. It's been one of the most talked about films of the year. I can't wait to see it. I hear it's raised a few eyebrows in China.
Yes, it has. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be in the cinemas, which is a bit of a shame.
Big market. Yeah, because I think there is some suggestion that the film teases the Chinese Communist Party leader Xi Jinping.
Yes, I have heard that.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Listen, what's next for you? Are you going to stay in the horror genre, Natasha Rose?
Actually, I'm looking to branch out. I have worked on other projects as well, dramas, other indie films. So I'm looking to just work on other projects. But if anything else comes up.
Yeah, of course. You know, I'm sure you'll be snapped up. The British film industry has a great legacy of horror films, doesn't it? Those Hammer House horrors, Dracula, all the rest of it. Some classics of the past.
Yes, definitely. And this is obviously based on the kind of 80s slasher film. So if you like that style, go and watch it. And also when you go and watch it, it's a spoof horror. Don't take it seriously. Just a bit of fun.
By the way, is it Natasha Rose or Natasha Rose Mills?
Natasha Rose Mills.
So Natasha, can I ask you briefly, if you can, what do you use for blood? Is it tomato ketchup?
Actually, it's like food colouring.
Oh, there you go. You're giving away your secrets. Brilliant to have you on the show. Thanks for giving us a smile. Let me tell you that Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, is out now, and it's certainly worth a watch, I reckon. Brilliant stuff. I'll watch it with, not with the kids, but with the wife. No, she's scary enough, let me tell you. Brilliant stuff. Lots to come. I better stop talking or I'll get in trouble. Next up in the next hour, very busy new hour of the show. In my take at 10, with more funny shows being axed, political correctness is killing TV entertainment. Go woke, no joke. That's next.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Clip that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Dubes & Co. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go.
But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway, Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today.
Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel. It's exactly 10 o'clock. You can tell producer Greg's in charge. Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. In my take at 10, with more funny shows being axed, political correctness is killing TV entertainment. Go woke, no joke. I'll be joined by one of the stars of the BBC sitcom Allo Allo to react. We'll also be live in Los Angeles. Is Prince Harry now a laughingstock in the United States? And has Donald Trump once again defied the odds? Mark Dolan Tonight is the home of the papers with a brand new look front pages from 10:30. And don't forget, it's the Sunday papers with some massive stories. Big guests, big stories, big opinions, a lively hour to come, including my take at 10 next. But first, the headlines with the ever-reliable and slightly dashing Ray Addison.
Thanks, Mark. Here's the latest from the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister has been accused of using incorrect figures when discussing the asylum claims backlog. The UK Statistics Authority has written to the government saying numbers used by Rishi Sunak do not reflect official stats. It's wrong, they say, to claim the Conservatives have halved the number of people waiting for their asylum application to be processed when the backlog has increased by 150,000 since they took office. Post office workers have been offered a 9% pay rise following a series of strikes. Members of the Communication Workers Union who work at Crown Post offices have also been offered substantial lump sum payments of between £2,000 and £3,000. They'll also see an increase in paternity pay. They'll now be balloted on the deal, with the union saying it's the best that can be achieved. 2 teenage boys have been charged with the murder of a 16-year-old boy who was stabbed to death in Northampton. Rohan Shand, known as Fred, died following the attack on Wednesday afternoon. The 14 and 16-year-old boys, who can't be named for legal reasons, appeared before Northampton Magistrates Court this morning. They've been remanded in custody. The Mayor of Greater Manchester has been fined almost £2,000 after being caught driving 38 miles an hour over the speed limit. In a statement, Andy Burnham says he had to reroute when he realised his junction was closed, but he was not aware of any variable speed limit being in place. He was reportedly driving 78 miles an hour in a 40 zone. The Mayor says he was going too fast and accepts the court's decision. And at least 23 people have been killed after a major tornado hit the US state of Mississippi. It's understood that dozens have been injured and at least 4 are still missing after the twister swept through the state and on into Alabama. The Emergency Management Agency says the storm has left a trail of damage more than 100 miles long. Residents have spoken of entire buildings left in rubble, cars turned over and trees uprooted. Russia wants to station nuclear weapons in Belarus, according to the country's state media. President Putin says he's struck a deal to post tactical nuclear weapons within the country which borders Ukraine. He claims it's not a violation of nuclear non-proliferation agreements and has compared it with the US stationing nuclear weapons on the territory of its European allies. Well, we're on TV, online, DAB+ radio and on TuneIn. This is, of course, GB News. Back now to Mark.
My thanks to Ray Addison, who returns at 11. Welcome to Mark Dolan Tonight. We're going to Los Angeles in America. We're going to the United States. La La Land. Is Prince Harry now a laughingstock in the States? And Donald Trump defies the odds. Mark Dolan Tonight is the home of the papers with tomorrow's front pages from 10:30. Plus, a good news Brexit story. So, big stories, big guests, and always big opinions. Let's start with my take at 10. Even Hollywood are waking up to the fact that mind-numbing political correctness is destroying the entertainment business. Comedians honouring the film star and actor Adam Sandler have this week bemoaned the fact that woke comedy is impacting their ability to make people laugh. Drew Barrymore, who starred with Sandler in the hilarious comedy The Wedding Singer, said comedy in general has become a taboo subject, and that in itself scares me. And Sandler told the press the goal is to make people laugh, but things are more hypersensitive than they've ever been. So true. Meanwhile, this totalitarian wave of political correctness seems to have claimed another scalp. The entertainingly naughty Sky Sports football show Soccer AM. Its former star, Rocket, says he doubts the cult show could have continued in the current climate because people get offended too easily. This after it emerged the wonderfully un-PC show was being axed after almost 30 years. Now, I can neither confirm nor deny that it's PC gone mad which has seen the cancelling of this excellent series, but it's pretty clear that the ultra-sensitive environment that we now inhabit, where almost any joke is examined for its ability to offend, means that we are witnessing the slow death of comedy and entertainment in this country. Almost any classic show that you can think of, Fawlty Towers, Allo Allo, Little Britain, The Office, as well as naughty movies like the Carry On films, The Pink Panther and The Hangover, could never be made now. Don't take my word for it, that's exactly what the great Billy Connolly has said, French and Saunders, and our very own GB News star, John Cleese. Comedy cannot be politically correct. Comedy is the art of saying the things you're not supposed to say. And if it doesn't trigger someone, it isn't working. Comedy is brutal. Jokes are unforgiving, and in order to make people laugh, they must always have a victim. But that doesn't wash in the cult of woke, where being a victim is a full-time occupation. These joyless woke censors who now control publishing and vast swathes of the film and TV industry are causing untold damage. Many argue that the so-called culture wars and anger about political correctness is just imagined by people, that it's an invention of those on the right with a political axe to grind. Well, that is straight out of the playbook of the abuser, abusing you whilst telling you you're not being abused at all. Let me reassure you, you're not imagining the woke takeover of broadcasting when you flick through the TV channels and can't find anything made recently that's in any way entertaining or funny. Woke comedy is a contradiction in terms, and any humour which is burdened with a progressive political message normally collapses under the weight of its own rhetoric. Which is why shows like Live at the Apollo, once brilliant, have seen a collapse in their ratings. The public want a proper laugh, not a political lecture. Comedy is funny because it's naughty, shocking, surprising, outrageous, all qualities that have been banned by the gatekeepers of art in 2023. Comedy and entertainment exist to say the unsayable. It's the opposite of political correctness. It is there to offend. Nobody should be immune to subversion, ridicule, or satire. And a society that can't laugh at itself is a highly dangerous place to be and characteristic of a totalitarian state. Now, we haven't got there just yet, but this relentless assault on comedy and entertainment is no laughing matter. Go woke is no joke. Honestly, folks, I genuinely believe that political correctness is killing comedy, which is why people are so happy to watch old episodes of Allo Allo. Now, reacting to my take at 10 is one of the stars of that BBC classic, comedy legend Sue Hodge. Hi, Sue.
Oh, hello, you naughty boy.
Are you going to come round and spank me?
Oh, darling, I've got my wet celery in hand waiting.
I hope it's not as floppy as mine. Now, listen, we're going to get in trouble for conversations like this. You played Mimi LaBonque in Allo Allo, and already just that name, Mimi LaBonque, would get you cancelled, wouldn't it?
I know, but darling, I've had to laugh so much at everything you've said because I can't believe we're talking about Carry On, the Carry On movies, and now, and now we're actually criticising them and saying, it shouldn't be allowed. I mean, it's just too hilarious. It really, really is. And, you know, when you say it's no joke, it makes me hoot. Because not only are they sort of condemning the programme and, you know, the artists, the actors in it, which, bearing in mind, we were only actors, we were playing roles, but they're actually condemning, at the time, 23.6 million viewers who tuned in peak time Saturday night to watch it, plus 76 countries, I think the last count was about 95 countries worldwide, also by the BBC, of course, and they are criticising all these people for celebrating and still celebrating this marvellous show.
Would a woke version of Allo Allo be any good?
Well, I mean, Allo Allo is still good, because otherwise, why would Channel 5 have done a documentary, which has actually been repeated twice already because the viewing figures were so high? This programme, this vehicle is not broken. That's why there's no need to do, I'm so glad, no need to do a remake, because it's actually not broken and it's still being made and shown everywhere.
Well, absolutely. For those of my viewers and listeners on the radio who are of a younger vintage and weren't lucky enough to watch Allo Allo, can you give us a flavour of some of the naughty comedy that you couldn't get away with now?
Well, I mean, for goodness sake, I've got fan mail now, you say about the younger viewers, because mummies and daddies are now showing, you know, and sharing this with their children. I've got a huge fan base of younger people who are saying, if you had have put some poison in the lipstick of Helga, she would have put it on her mouth, she would have died, you would have been the most famous woman in France. This is from the younger viewers, not the older ones.
Indeed. I mean, Allo Allo was set, of course, in the fictional town of Nouvion during the German occupation of France in the Second World War. Hardly you would think the perfect...
There is Nouvion in France.
Oh, is there? Well, I'll have to go and visit.
There is.
Well, there you go. That's going to be my answer in Mastermind. Tell me about your memories of making Allo Allo. It was a different era, wasn't it?
It was a different era, but... I mean, it's still, today, if we were allowed to remake it today, it would still be the most best, brilliant fun. When we actually had a reunion, and Nicky Chapman and people, you know, were in the next studio, next door when we were doing it, they came running in, screaming when we all arrived, saying, "We can't believe, you know, that you've been away this long. It feels like you never left." And they were on the set, jumping for joy. It was one of the most memorable, happiest times ever, and it's still being enjoyed now, today, by so many people. I tell you, this comedy ain't gonna go away.
No, it's a classic. That's why people are still watching Fawlty Towers, Monty Python, The Office, Only Fools and Horses. They don't make them like that anymore. What do you think of newer modern comedies?
I'm so sorry to say, I've tried and I've tried. If someone can help me out here, I'm willing to keep going. I can't get it.
And what do you think is the problem?
Maybe, perhaps it's the lack of intelligence from my behalf or something. Nah. I mean, having been a very successful comedian, I have to be careful what I say now. I don't say actress in case that's not correct, but I just don't get it. It's a level I don't understand. And I also think, I mean, we were clean, we were this, we didn't swear, we didn't have naughtiness, nonsense. Most of it, when you say about talking about, you know, giving us a clue as to some of the naughties, Actually, it was all double entendre, and it was down to the audience themselves. We never actually said anything that was wrong or incorrect. And the other thing is, and I would like to say, I've always thought the best thing about British people and British comedy is the ability to laugh at ourselves, send ourselves up. I mean, you know, there you were, you know, with the kinky Germans, you know, the randy French, and the stupid English. Far. I mean, that, I'm sorry. The day we stop sending ourselves up in this country, you know, we might as well all give up. Because that is what we have always done
to that.
And what we are so good at.
Listen very carefully. I shall say this only once. Woke comedy isn't funny. Sue Hodge, thrilled to have you on the show. Of course, you were Mimi LeBonc in LOLO, and you've had a long career on stage and screen. Look forward to catching up soon. Brilliant stuff. Well, next up, is Prince Harry now a laughingstock in the United States? And has Donald Trump once again defied the odds? Is he on a slow march back to the White House? We've got the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield, and at 10:30 sharp, tomorrow's Sunday papers with my top pundits. See you in 2.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things, we've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference. And the GB News family really is here for you, and whatever time of day you can watch or listen.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat. Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, the Member of Parliament for North East Somerset and a former government minister. For years, I've walked the corridors of power in both Westminster and the City of London. I campaigned in the largest democratic vote in our island story. I know this country has so much to be proud of. We need to have the arguments, the discussions on how we make it better. The wisdom of the nation is in its people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei. That's why I'm joining the People's Channel. Join me Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Big reaction to our discussion about political correctness in comedy. I'll get to those emails after 10:30 when we do tomorrow's papers. But first, US News with the Queen of US showbiz, royal and political reporting, Kinsey Schofield, my bestie on the other side of the pond. Hi, Kinsey.
Mark, that tie is a lot, okay? That tie requires some shades.
I got very excited. I thought I had Elton John on the show for a second. But we've got the far more gorgeous Kinsey Schofield, who boasts her own hair. Can we talk about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex and that coronation?
Well, we're calling them the Duke and Duchess of Hash over here because we're you know, they're talking a lot about drug use, and we're concerned about how they got in, how at least Prince Harry got his visa. But yeah, there's a story circulating online now that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex want a special family moment, and they would like to appear on the balcony alongside King Charles, Queen Consort Camilla, Prince William, and Catherine, the Princess of Wales. Now, as you can imagine, royal watchers are none too thrilled about this. You know, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex did not appear on the balcony during the Platinum Jubilee. So it's, you know, interesting that they would want to appear on the balcony for King Charles's coronation. And, you know, I have to tell you, if you're looking for a special family moment, Thomas Markle lives in the same time zone as you. All you have to do is pick up the phone and call your dad, Meghan.
Now, every week when we speak, it's will they, won't they? Sadly, that's not about you and I, because you're out of my league, but about whether Harry and Meghan will attend the coronation. Do you think it's going to happen? Will the pair appear?
Oh, I bet you they will, Mark. I think that they're both going to come because Meghan wants that tiara moment. It's been a long time since she's got to wear something sparkly on her head, and they need to remind the world that they are associated with the royal family because, as you know, that's their business. That has become their sole brand, their association with the royal family. But I will say that one of Diana's friends, because I have a blog and a podcast about Princess Diana, To Die For Daily, one of Diana's friends told me she hopes that they do not go, and she does not believe they should be on the balcony.
One of Diana's friends. And what motivates that view, do you think? What's behind it?
She thinks that they have disrespected the monarchy and they talk too much.
The problem is, if you punish the couple, you just feed their narrative of being victims, don't you? You play their own game.
That's true, but, you know, I understand King Charles inviting them to the coronation. I understand that. I do think that it could look like a stain in the history books for his son to not attend. But when it comes to the balcony, do they really belong there? I mean, they have spent 3 years trying to destroy everything that Queen Elizabeth built. And don't forget that they rejected her on her deathbed. Days before she passed away, she asked them to come visit her, and they rejected her invitation. So, you know, I have little sympathy for them when it comes to this stuff.
How much interest will there be in the United States in the King's coronation, Kinsey?
We are so envious of your beautiful traditions, the uniforms, the music, you know, just the choreography. I think there will be a lot of interest. You know, whether King Charles I do think that people favor Prince William. You know, I'm not going to deny that. But I do think that we've always envied your traditions and think they're very beautiful. And all eyes will be on Coronation Day.
Let's talk about other royals moving to the US, this time the Danes.
Okay, so Denmark's Prince Joachim is moving to Washington, D.C. to work for their embassy. I don't know if you remember the drama. The Queen, his mother, who's the third cousin to Queen Elizabeth.
Oh, yes.
Actually, I don't know how to say it without, she stripped the prince's children of their titles. It was drama. Royal watchers were rejoicing, saying, King Charles, are you looking at this woman? Please take note. But there was a lot of family drama when she decided to strip his children of their titles. So he up and moved. He's moving here to Washington, D.C. to work for the embassy, like $50,000 a month, Mark. Talk about a great gig. And because Parliament agreed that they would pay for his position, I don't think he's going to come over here and pull a Prince Harry. I think he's going to be respectful of his mother and his country. No tell-alls, no talking to Oprah. But you know, we're becoming the royal reject country. Come on over.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump lives to fight another day. What's the latest in Trumpland?
Oh my gosh, isn't this wild to watch? We expected an arrest on Tuesday. When it didn't happen, we expected the arrest on Wednesday. We find out the grand jury's been sent home Wednesday and Thursday, while simultaneously finding out there's been a letter from Michael Cohen that's come back up from 2018 where he denies that Trump paid him back for that Stormy Daniels hush money. So if Cohen is the one that paid, Trump's hands are completely clean. Meanwhile, a letter Stormy Daniels wrote in 2018 saying that she did not have an affair with Trump comes back up. And you just realize that their two main witnesses aren't very strong. So what will happen over the next few days? I don't know. But interesting that the grand jury was sent home for half the week, the majority of the week. And these pieces of evidence are coming to light that really crush Alvin Bragg's case.
Well, there you go. Possibly in 1 week, Donald Trump acquitted, Boris Johnson acquitted. The world is a curious place. Very sad news, finally, Kinsey, a tornado in Mississippi.
That's right. It ripped through 170 miles. 25 people are dead. We actually had a very sweet moment, Mark, a moment that's gone viral when WTVA weatherman Matt Lobham went viral for praying in the middle of a newscast, begging God to protect the people that were in harm's way. One of those moments where you actually start to feel that unity in this country, and that you're not ashamed of your Christianity, or you're not ashamed of your faith. I do think that this country comes together when we have, and faith-based, we come together over our faith in God when we have these horrible moments. And I think that was a sweet moment that we saw come out of here. They are still looking for any survivors. I believe 4 individuals are still missing. A horrible incident. But some good to come out of it is the fact that that story's gone viral, and it's nice to see you can talk about God.
Absolutely right. And our hearts go out to the people of Mississippi. What a lovely moment, as always, in the show to have you on the programme, Kinsey. Kinsey returns in a week's time. But if you need a bit more Kinsey, why don't you check out her wonderful podcast? It's called To Die For Daily. It's full of royal exclusives. It's also the name of her brilliant website as well. Next up, we've got tomorrow's Sunday Papers in the company of my top trio of pundits and a good news story about Brexit. Don't go anywhere.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Jacob Rees-Mogg. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the People's Channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News has its own late-night paper preview show, Headliners, where comedians take you through the next day's top news stories. You don't have to bother reading the newspaper, we've got it covered for you. Headliners, every night at 11 p.m, and repeated every morning at 5 a.m. We won't send you to sleep like some of the other paper review shows out there. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, from 9:30 on Sunday morning when Sir Ian Duncan-Smith gives me his verdict on Brexit and Boris. I'll also be asking Labour's Lucy Powell about Keir Starmer's tax return and pension plan. And Sammy Wilson joins me from Belfast to reveal whether the DUP will go back to power sharing after the Windsor framework passed through the Commons. All that and more with me, Camilla Tominey, this Sunday morning from 9:30.
You're watching Mark Dolan tonight. It's 10:30, and at this time every Friday and Saturday and Sunday, it's time for my New Look paper review. Yes, indeed, and hot off the press, we start with the Sunday Telegraph, and they lead with the following. European judges may be overruled on Rwanda deportations. Suella Braverman could ban the European Court of Human Rights from grounding migrant deportation flights in a deal to pacify Tory rebels. The Home Secretary is locked in talks with up to 60 Tory MPs who are trying to strip Strasbourg of the right to interfere with Britain's immigration policy. In an attempt to quell what is set to be the biggest rebellion of Rishi Sunak's premiership, ministers may agree to block the use of a mechanism the European Court of Human Rights used to ground the first flight to Rwanda last June. Then it's war, folks. I'll get reaction from my pundits on that shortly. Kaplinsky calls for porn crackdown. Natasha Kaplinsky, the chief film censor and former TV news presenter, has struggled to protect her own children from internet porn and is calling for a tougher online law to shield youngsters from damaging online material. Welfare concerns flagged over school head. This was the Ofsted inspectors who visited one particular school of Ruth Perry, head of Caversham Primary School in Reading. She took her own life after the school was downgraded to inadequate. Christie thrillers are the latest to get a modern makeover. Agatha Christie novels have been rewritten for modern sensitivities. Poirot and Miss Marple mysteries have had original passages reworked or entirely removed for new editions published by HarperCollins. Sunday Express, Rishi crime blitz to woo Red Wall. PM gets tough as his popularity soars. Rishi Sunak will launch a law and order blitz this week amid surging Tory hopes that he can lead the party to election victory. The Mail on Sunday, Rishi, I will let victims say how to punish yobs. PM's blitz on antisocial behaviour will see shamed thugs wearing jumpsuits as they clean up streets that they blighted. Also, royal exclusive, Palace facing another tell-all memoir, this time by Prince Andrew. Would you read it? Would you buy it? I know we'll be talking about it. The Observer, top Tory MPs ask for £10,000 a day to work for a fake company. The former Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng and former Health Secretary Matt Hancock agreed to work for £10,000 a day to further the interests of a fake South Korean firm after apparently being duped by the campaign group led by donkeys. Also, stress from Ofsted investigations linked in coroner reports to 10 teacher deaths. Sunday Mirror, Shirley, I may never go back to Strictly. Shirley Ballas may never return to TV's Strictly after trolls made her life hell. Well, my good friend and one of our top pundits tonight, Ben Ofoedu, has been talking about his experience with a troll recently, and we'll return to that topic in just a moment. The Independent, no way to treat a hero. Afghan airman who served with UK troops escapes Taliban and arrives here by small boat and is threatened with deportation to Rwanda. Daily Star Sunday, your friends and neighbours may really be aliens.
Oh, I've always thought.
Yeah, well, could be one of the pundits tonight. There's a guy who works down the chip shop, swears he's ET. Aliens are living amongst us after stealing human eggs to create ETs that look like us. That's what UFO investigators say. So the bloke who works down the chip shop and swears that he's Elvis may be more than he seems. And those are your front pages. Let's get reaction now from my top pundits tonight. 3 of the top political pundits in the country. Journalist and broadcaster Lizzie Zita, radio and TV legend Diddy David Hamilton, and singer, actor, and of course, general TV star Ben Ofoedu. Look, let's get to lots of those stories, and we should start, shouldn't we, Diddy David Hamilton, with the boats. And this is a story that features...
The Sunday Telegraph.
In the Sunday Telegraph,
yes.
European judges may be overruled on Rwanda deportations. Now, this is the European Convention on Human Rights that we drafted up after the Second World War. It looks like Britain will tear it up in order to stop the boats. Your reaction?
Well, I think it's time that we had our own laws, isn't it? I mean, that was the whole point of Brexit, wasn't it? We would make our own laws here. And every time the government tries to do something about the illegal immigrants, they're thwarted by somebody or other, usually lawyers. So something's got to be done about it, and it's about time that, you know, we had our own laws here and made our own decisions.
However, what about this story in The Independent, Lizzie Zita? No way to treat a hero. Afghan airman who served with UK troops escapes the Taliban and arrives in Britain by a small boat and is now threatened with deportation to Rwanda.
Well, obviously, this is dreadful, but this is all part of the problem. Nobody is being checked. And
It's indiscriminate.
It's indiscriminate, absolutely. Thank you very much. And so this is why this guy, you know, he's obviously a hero. He's an airman who helped UK troops, and he should be singled out, but we should be processing everybody. It's out of control. So this should not happen. This person should be given... refuge.
Given refuge, and that's what the system is for. And at the moment, individuals like this are at the back of the queue because of illegal migrants who are often trafficked by international criminals.
No, absolutely. And a lot of them are migrants. They are not refugees because a lot of them are coming from France.
Yes, indeed. Moving on, Ben Ofoedu, Rishi, I will let victims say how to punish yobs. Rishi Sunak will tomorrow vow that those whose lives are blighted by antisocial behaviour will have a say in how the culprits are punished. I think it's really good that we're talking about this because it's not low-level crime, is it?
No, I like what he's doing. It's very Forrest-esque, isn't it? It's that kind of... It's like, you know, every Prime Minister's got to be a bit of a pop star and have an angle. You know, there's a part in the superheroes movie.
This is out of the Boris playbook, is it?
Yeah, there's a part in the superheroes movie when Spider-Man first turns up and goes, "Who's there?" And he goes, "Oh, everybody's got an angle these days." and you know, I think this is a bit of an angle. Nice. You know, and everyone, it's the kind of thing that everyone wants to hear. It's like good old-fashioned. Yeah, I'll tell you. You know, he stole my watch, so this is how you should be punished. You should be doing
bring
this
back
and that.
the stocks.
I mean, I quite like it. I quite like it.
Lizzie Zita, you're warming to this theme tonight of putting people in the stocks.
Yeah, and throwing vegetables
you want to
at
put the
them.
people that run private car parks in the stocks.
Oh, those would be the first.
You want to put most
would be the
politicians
first.
in the stocks. But it's important, isn't it? Because we know that Rudolph Giuliani in the 90s cleaned up New York with a zero-tolerance policy when it came to low-level crime.
Yeah, and he started with graffiti. He really did. I think that what's happened is that everybody's so frightened of everybody else at the moment. No one's making decisions.
What they're going to do is they're going to have thugs wearing jumpsuits cleaning up the streets. That's part of the plan. So that's great. How are you going to enforce it?
Will take some organising, won't it?
It certainly will. And it's very interesting, isn't it? Because isn't this the kind of thing that Keir Starmer's been saying? You know, everybody is now getting tough on crime. We should have been tough on crime a long time ago, shouldn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. The horse has bolted. Let's talk, can we, David, about this story in The Observer. Top Tory MPs ask for £10,000 a day to work for a fake company. This was a bit of a prank. organised led by donkeys, who are a political campaign group.
Yeah.
Clues in the title in terms of what their view is of politicians. Is this an argument for politicians not having second careers?
It's Quating and Hancock that they're talking about, isn't it?
A pair of prize numpties.
Yes, exactly. And, I mean, it's very, very weird, isn't it? They've been taken in, have they, by this company, and they've been asking for £10,000.
Indeed. And look, I mean, of course, politicians are allowed to work in the private sector, so they haven't necessarily broken any rules. But it's particularly embarrassing for Rishi Sunak that it should be two leading Conservatives.
Yeah, it just makes them look very foolish, doesn't it, really? They've...
Well, I think the hint was in the name, led by donkeys. Wouldn't you be a bit suspicious?
I think you might.
I think, yeah, no, funny enough, it sounds funny, but I think there are a lot... I think it just opens up the door to the rest of the world of what they really kind of get up to, and I think there are a lot of those companies. I think that they did it, but it must have been quite realistic for them to go for it, and I think that a lot of politicians work in the private sector doing things like that, and £10,000 a day, and this is a view into their world.
Is it really a story, though, Ben? I mean, this is a sting operation. What does it actually tell us? I mean, yes, backbench Tory MPs offer their services in the private sector.
It just sort of says that these guys they're on the take, mate. They're on the take, they're on the make. You know what I mean? £10,000 a day.
I also think that, who would be an MP today? Who would go into politics? This is the problem, because they get torn down. Loads of them deserve it. I mean, these two, in my world, in the stocks first. However, it's very difficult, I think, at this point in time, to attract talent, young people who'd go into politics, because you get torn to pieces by social media. Not all MPs are inept and corrupt, etc., etc. I hope not, anyway. The backbenchers seem to be more morally sound, but I just think I don't have a problem with people making money if you're talented and if you're good at your job and if you're leading the country in the right direction.
Now, I'm the owner of the least popular opinion in the country, which is I think that MPs, wait for it, folks, are underpaid. And I think that they should all get a couple of £100,000 a year, but no other income, and concentrate on their job.
But a lot of it has been, down the years, has been rich people, hasn't it, indulging themselves in particularly in one particular side of politics, or maybe the other side as well, but indulging themselves in a little bit of power while, having their snouts in the trough.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Can we have a look, Ben, at this story? A Glitterball exclusive. Shirley, I may never go back to Strictly. Oh. Shirley Ballas may never return to TV's Strictly as a judge after trolls made her life hell. She was shaken by hate jibes, and whilst talks are ongoing, is yet to sign up for a new series. She said the abuse left her crying and emotional. We spoke earlier in the show. You were very brave to talk about your recent relationship issues, and so much of what you've been through is at the hands of trolls as well.
Yeah, I didn't know. I used to hear about trolls, and I used to have friends who'd gone through it, and I just thought, I'll just ignore it, I've got a good friend, Shane Lynch from Boyzone, says, look, if it's good, I don't read it. If it's bad, I don't read it. I just don't read anything, and that's how I get through it. And I thought, oh, yeah, that's a good bit of advice. But I thought it was a bit unrealistic, but then me and Shane are slightly different, although we're best of mates. And but when it actually happens to you, what it does to your mental health is unbelievable.
But how is it allowed to happen? It should be against the law, you should be protected.
You've got millions of Twitter accounts. Can you ever control it?
You've got millions of Twitter accounts. You've got people that just make up accounts so that they control. And there are people, and sometimes when you actually follow the lead, it's probably one person with 5 or 6 accounts. And the human brain is just, you can get 20 good things and then one bad thing, and you just stick on that one bad thing. But what it does when everyone is coming at you, and especially if the story's slightly wrong or whatever, and you just want to go, no, it wasn't that, it wasn't this, and then and then you end up just like not looking at your social media. And I'm sure by what I've said today, I'm sure that I'm going to go on Twitter when I leave here, and everyone's going to go, oh, he was lying, or he said this, or I don't believe in this. It's good that Vanessa dumped him, or I'm sure I'm going to get that sort of thing. And Shirley Ballas is one of the nicest women I've met. I met her many years ago when she first started. And
why would you do this to somebody who is a judge on Strictly Come Dancing?
And an incredible professional.
A fun show. Yes, incredible professional. Why are there nasty people out there who would pick on somebody like her?
Do they have a pathology? Is it a mental health issue on their part?
No, I think in some cases it is, and in some cases it isn't.
Are they evil?
Yeah, I just think that there are a lot of really cowardly people who just like to get onto the back of a... You know, you don't say it to somebody's face, you just hide behind a phone.
And also, like today, so on my social media, on TikTok, there was a lady who's been an alcoholic and she's in recovery. And I only found out when I went onto her page. But she'd wrote something quite horrible on my page. So I thought, let me see who's writing this. So it wasn't like the worst thing I've ever seen, don't get me wrong, but she'd wrote something horrible, something negative.
Yeah.
And I've been in a really sort of, you know, a down place for a while. And anyway, I looked on her page and she's a recovering alcoholic. And surely she, out of all the people, would know. So you get all this...
Oh, you're so right.
Can I make a small point here? Don't look at it.
No, you can't look at it.
I don't look at any of it. If anybody wants to say something horrible about me, it goes into the ether.
Try not to mention it. As I mentioned in my brand new hit podcast, The Mark Dolan Way, nobody kicks a dead dog. So if someone attacks you, it's for a reason, and you should be flattered because there's something about you that threatens them. More fool them. More from the papers next, including some great Brexit news. See you in 2.
It's all about family, being in people's living rooms, all the interaction and getting to know who our viewers and listeners are.
When I was young, my dad used to say, Nana, stop arguing. I wanted an outlet that would enable me to give my opinion.
People are going through a really hard time right now, and I know that you don't feel like you're being listened to by the establishment.
I came to GB News because it's the People's Channel, and I want the audience to have their say on the events of the day.
We're dynamic. We do something different. Democracy shows that the wisdom of the nation is in its people.
I get to travel to find out what the story is from a personal perspective.
The British people aren't fools. We know when we're not being told the full story.
We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this.
It's the best country in the world.
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent your views.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Co.
You're an inspiration to us all.
Click that bit up.
Well, you are.
That's my ringtone. My political ambitions those days are gone, I can tell you. She's only teasing. Go on. He's probably going to want to lay down now. I'll give him 2 minutes to have one. Let's respectfully disagree. That's what we like on Jubes and Co. Come and join us. GB News, the People's Channel.
Michelle Dewberry, weekday evenings at 6 o'clock.
Start the day with GB News.
We catch up on all the big stories you didn't hear the night before.
And take a look at what the world's talking about this morning. That's right, Monday to Thursdays from 6 o'clock. It's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Straight after breakfast, join us, Bev Turner and Andrew Pearce. We're going to take you through till noon.
We'll be tackling the big topics of the day, including the things that the other channels just won't talk about. If it's happening here. Wake up to mornings on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m.
What's the scoop?
I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians.
That's right.
As we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight.
We're going to get into trouble.
If it's a big story, we'll be covering it.
Spill some tea on him.
There we go. But we'll also have some fun.
I wouldn't stick up a bank.
My father didn't love me.
So anyway.
Headliners every night from 11 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We've got a brand new lineup every Saturday night on GB News.
From 6 p.m, I'll give you my unique take on the world today. Then at 7, it's me, Calvin Robinson, with my Common Sense Crusade.
New to GB News is the Saturday 5.
5 times the opinion. Join us every Saturday from 8 p.m. as we debate the week's stories.
With us 4, plus a special guest.
And at 9, of course, it's Mark Dolan Tonight. Brand new Saturday nights on GB News, Britain's news channel. Welcome back to Mark Dolan Tonight and the papers. Tomorrow's front page is hot off the panel. Let's have a look at the Sunday Times, hot off the press, courtesy of Mescana. Well done, Mescana. Worked very hard today. A small team, Greg and Mescana, knocked it out the park. And what is the headline? Well, here we go, folks. I have it. Let me get my ducks in a row. Strip searches of children as young as 8. Also, Putin, I'll put nuclear weapons in Belarus, and jailing disabled woman for cyclist's death is wrong, say her family. Let me give you a bit of detail on that children's story. Strip searches of children as young as 8. Shocking findings of a new report into police keep me awake at night, say Children's Commissioner. More worrying concerns there about the probity of our police forces. Look, we've got lots of other stories to get through, front pages. Producer Greg wants me to go to the Sunday Express, but Greg, I'm going to defy your orders because we've got this massive breaking story, and you'll have heard about it from the excellent Ray Addison, who, of course, gave you details of this at 10 o'clock. But I think it needs further attention. I think it's going to be one of the big stories of the next 24 hours and beyond. Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has been fined for speeding after admitting, wait for it, driving at 78 miles an hour. 78 miles an hour on a 40 road. He's been ordered by a court to pay nearly £2,000 in fines, and he's been awarded 6 penalty points. Ben Ofoedu, this is not 33 on a 30 road.
This is Burnham by name, Burnham by nature. That's what this is. Yeah, I know.
What is his mayoral car? It must be like a Lamborghini or something.
I don't know how. That's ridiculous.
But that is dangerous, isn't it?
It's very, very dangerous, and it stinks of privilege and feeling that he can kind of get away with it. They should have made him pay £78,000.
Well, yeah, which is what they do, I think, in Switzerland or in certain European countries. A percentage of your annual salary?
Yeah, or something like that. Or I thought you were just going to say a percentage of the speed that you're actually. Which actually,
no, I think it might be Switzerland, where they look at your tax return from the previous year and you pay about 10%.
Well, if you hit them high, you know, it's just like with anything. If you know, I remember a way that they dealt with. I know this is jumping the subject, but a way that they dealt with gun crime is an immediate 10 years or whatever if you got a gun, and then people just stop carrying guns, like literally, and they should do the same with knives. And it's the same thing with this. People wouldn't speed if you hit them high. You know.
Lizzie, the reason why I think this is important is not just because he's driven almost double the speed limit, which is horrifically fast. I mean, that's not an accident. That's not a sort of misjudgment. Because, you know, I don't know about you, but I find the 20-mile-an-hour zones very hard to stick to.
It is. Oh, yeah.
And you look down at the speedo and you're on 25, you're on 26, and it's like...
Oh, it's a bit of money. It's a big tax
you're
raising.
And so, you know, don't recommend it. Stick to 20, absolutely. But it's quite hard. It's not hard to stay closer to 40 than 78. Andy Burnham, one of the biggest stars in the Labour movement, somebody tipped to be a future Labour leader. Is that hope that he could become Labour leader now in peril?
I don't know. Possibly. Look, I haven't read the whole thing. I don't know if he came off a motorway or whether he was
I don't care what happened. I mean, did he need the loo? Was his wife having a baby?
Maybe there was a reason.
Collecting his dry cleaning?
Maybe we need to understand the reason why he was driving that quickly before we drive a stake through his heart. But it is fast, and he shouldn't be doing it, for sure.
It's dangerous.
He is now going to be known as Andy Burn Up. Andy Burn Up. But, I mean, what was he thinking of? I mean, you know, he is a man of great responsibility.
Yeah.
And you know you can't be doing 78 miles an hour in a built-up area. It's just ludicrous, isn't it? I mean, where was his...
Well, do you know Manchester? They all drive like nutters up there, I'm telling you.
The thing is,
I'm in Manchester a lot.
I was born in Manchester.
No, it is. I love them, but, you know...
The thing is, I think, although there are two things about it, it tells you a lot about his personality. I think the way someone drives... I think you drive to your personality and you cook to your personality. They're the two things I think you do. So
I'm a great
he's obviously well, exactly. So you've got a great personality, but he's obviously a very sort of impatient sort of guy. That's what I would read from that.
Definitely, and we talked about Emmanuel Macron and his double standards at the start of the show, wearing an expensive watch, telling the French to have a pay cut. Listen, Ben, briefly, if you can, do you think it could impact his political future?
In this day and age, no. I don't think so. I think we've seen...
Not since Matt Hancock, right?
Yeah, since Matt Hancock.
The bar has been raised.
He's just gone on the celebrity. Yeah, no, yeah. No, I mean...
And Boris.
Yeah, I think now it's...
I don't think so either.
Now it's all
I think
PR.
it's a temporary blip, but I think he should make sure it doesn't happen again.
Well, let's end on a good news story. Thanks to Brexit, British fishermen are set to earn £101 million more in catches this year. A new analysis revealed by the government shows that by leaving the EU, we've ranked up the quota set by the UK by almost 120,000 tonnes. So, there you go. Brexit benefits, plenty more of those to come, let me tell you. Thanks so much for watching Mark Dolan tonight. I hope you're enjoying the new look papers. I hope you're enjoying the big story and our refreshed new look. We'll do it all again tomorrow from 9. The Fantastic Headliners is next. 3 top comedians looking at tomorrow's papers. Always unmissable. I'll see you tomorrow at 9 for my big opinion. The weather is next.
Hello again. We have some pretty wet and windy weather spreading across southern parts as we go through tonight. Elsewhere, yes, there'll be some showery rain around, but in the north it's frost and ice. That's perhaps a bigger cause for concern. Taking a look at the bigger picture, and you can see this area of low pressure, and it's this that's going to track its way across the south, bringing some pretty unsettled weather as we go through Saturday night into Sunday morning. Taking a closer look at the detail, and some rain spilling up from the southwest, spreading across much of central southern England and Wales as we go through the night. A little bit of uncertainty as to just how far north that rain's going to make it, but it could be pretty heavy for some of us, perhaps up to 30 millimetres in a few spots. In the north, we've got a cold northerly wind, and so temperatures dropping, perhaps even some wintry showers bring some sleet or snow here, but a milder start in the south on Sunday morning. Through Sunday itself then, yes, cloudy and wet first thing in the south, but that rain is gradually going to clear its way, and so as we head into the afternoon, it will be drier, albeit staying quite cloudy here. Some bright or sunny spells likely further north, particularly across parts of Scotland, but also some showers to watch out for. These could be a bit wintry at times. Notice those temperatures markedly down compared to what we saw on Saturday, though perhaps a little bit milder in the southwest, could get to highs of 12 or 13. As we go through the end of the day on Sunday, we are going to see most of the cloud and those showers clearing away, so a largely dry and clear picture through Sunday night. That, combined with that cold northerly flow, does mean temperatures are going to take quite a drop. Perhaps a touch of frost in prone spots towards more southern parts, but further north, the frost on Monday morning is going to be quite widespread and harsh, with some icy patches to watch out for as well. Through Monday itself then, yes, a cold, frosty start for many of us, but actually it's going to be a generally fine day. Lots of sunshine to be had. Watch out for some showers towards coastal parts, towards the North Sea, and also some rain reaching towards Shetland later, but otherwise, yes, plenty of fine weather to be had. It is going to be chilly though, but you'll want to make the most of the fine weather before things turn more unsettled, albeit milder, later in the week.
I joined GB News because I was sick and tired of not hearing my views being represented, not just mine, but so many people that I knew and spoke to.
I just couldn't get my voice out there. I couldn't say anything. I couldn't do anything. Whatever the narrative was, I kind of had to follow it.
GB News is there to provide a voice for those who have been ignored by the establishment media. We think different things. We've got a different style.
GB News is here to be optimistic and positive about the future.
It's real kind of dynamic and flowing, with the audience very much at the heart of it, like a big family.
Here at GB News, we talk about the things that matter to you.
Hearing the voices from right across our towns and cities, especially our towns.
All sides of the argument represented with a heavy dose of opinion.
We're on a mission here to make a difference.